doesn't give me the option today. Right, you take care of that. Welcome everyone to Neuroccino. Today is the 14th December. As I can see, we have one paper ready in the chat. Are there any other papers today? Nope. Okay. You know the drill. You quickly present the paper, we discuss it, and we take it from there, really. As we only have one paper, I'd be happy to have a chat afterwards how we actually do find those papers that we present to you every week. And I also want to draw your attention to the event that is happening tomorrow, which is a PhD Viva, tomorrow at 3, I think, yes. And it will be live streamed to our channel as well, so do join us for that one. Right, without further ado, Victor, you have a paper for us.
Yes, I do.
Take it away.
It was a bit rushed. Well, not the paper, my my finding of it. But
always on a Monday morning.
So here you go. Up. All right. So this is a paper published, I think, last week in Nature Neuroscience. It's a review article. It's not something I'm personally using or anything. It's about the advances in the neurotechnologies that are applied to the field of neuroscience and to help understanding the brain and everything. But it's more focused on the technology of implantable stuff, really on small animals mostly. So it's not at all my field because I'm working mostly in MRI, fMRI on human. So it's completely different from that. But it got me really excited because it's quite amazing what we are capable of doing nowadays with the miniaturization of the different instruments that we can use. And I was just excited to show you what we have nowadays at our disposal, and that some of you might use in the future, or I might be even using right now. So without further ado, I'll just show you they have really nice figures, so it's nice. I can just like browse through the figures and show you. So they created for the review. They created different small categories to help us understand what does what, and they neatly organized them into section, and here's a neat graph explaining the relationship between the different components, the technology the broad technology that it is used for, and the neuroscience method that it is linked to. So we have both compliant materials, microscale electronics, which is mostly microelectrodes, but there are also microchannels for the drug delivery and other transparent materials, multiplexed waveguide, the microscale light source and detectors, miniaturized optics, and wireless power and communication. So I will just go through the few the different methods that they have that they show. They say that one thing that is mostly interesting with this kind of miniaturization nowadays is that it helps that sorry. The technologies that we had from before were quite invasive and limited to their chronic use in animals, because usually it was more something that it was very destructive, and you could not keep it for long. There was often inflammatory responses to the implantations, but with the type of method that we thing that we have now today, it's much better. Especially, for example, with a compliant material, and they show a lot of different material that are so very able to follow the curves of the brain, to stay to not push into the brain that is a very squishy substance, and that for those that do operations on it, they know it's a very soft. For those that, like me, don't do that too much, it may not be obvious, but it's something that is very, very delicate, and so it's hard to really implant materials in it. And so here we have like microscale electronics. This is one of the things that got me excited the most, I think, with well, there are some also that I find really interesting, but this one, so the microscale probes and the array of needles that can help for both stimulation and recording. It's something that I think has the most potential to get some application in human in the future. It's something that we can see for the, well, maybe quite far future, but for the thing that goes with the exploration of the human brain, and also for the stimulation and recording of typically the sensory input, I would say, for let's say not an improved, but more like a different way of living the world with new stuff. It can be probably used for blindness or other debilitating diseases. But yeah, I digress. Also, transparent materials that are quite crazy today with when you can have both electrodes and readings of optogenetic, of excitation of optogenetically modified neurons, or calcium imaging with stimulation at the same time. If I continue, there are also, so here are some so yeah, one thing that is great with the review is that they pair, so first the methods themselves, and then some of the application. So it's great if you want to have a quick overview of the thing that you can do with each one of them. It's really well written and easy to understand. So well, there's so many things that I can't really tell you about, but well. So then there is also the multiplexed waveguide. So I'm not entirely sure, I didn't read what exactly it was yet. I think it's something that can guide the light very simply, so that you can activate with it's an optogenetic tool that can activate some very specific spot deep in the brain. But something that really impressed me was the multifunctional probe that can both be a micro electrode, a micro recorder, and micro LED, a temperature sensor, and a micro injection needle. Both, all of these at the same time. And of course, there is something that I've heard of, like from a few years ago already, but the miniaturized microscopes like with the wide field fluorescent microscopy and the 2-photon microscopy that are that were very, like, they were huge instruments before, and now we can have some that are mounted on the top of the skull of a mouse. So it's really amazing. And then there is all the drug delivery systems that we can have that are like, they really love to put, like, I think it's a penny or something like that, and then it's to show you the size of it. But you have, so it's really small. You can have it on the top of the brain, and it can do both the micro injection of different drugs and the recording of with the neural activity with the neurons. Yeah, so I just wanted to do a quick, to show you quickly this article, because yeah, I got excited with all this technologies, and that's pretty much it. So if you have any question or remarks about this, I'd be happy to have them, and thank you for your attention.
I have a question.
Thank you, Victor. That was very interesting. It's completely out of my comfort zone, to be honest.
Kind of me too.
Very interesting paper, though. Are there any questions in the room? Michel?
So Victor, thank you for this. Which method do you find the most exciting?
It's really hard to choose, because at first I was like, oh, I'm probably know this. The one that I knew the most and that I expected to find here was the area of electrodes, of microelectrodes, because recently I think it's Neuralink, the firm made by Elon Musk, the creator of Tesla and Falcon, the Falcon X rockets and everything. He wants to create. He created a startup that tries to create a link between the brain and the computer to try to speed up the development of neural interface between the brain and the computer. And they got some nice electrodes, and it's working great on pigs, I think. So pigs that are quite similar in a lot of ways to human. It's much bigger than a mice or a rat, and so it's great to see a good result that they have. So it's something that I'm excited about. But the thing I find I'm always amazed, and that really got me excited, was probably both the miniaturized microscopes that I've heard of before, but seeing them, I'm always flabbergasted by what we did today with this kind of thing, and the just like this multi-probe, multifunctional probe that can do everything at the same time at one specific spot in the brain. So yeah, that were the few ones that really struck me.
I do apologize for our chat. I kicked that person out now.
It's actually funny. It's actually funny.
I'm glad you're seeing it like that. I can't delete the message, but it's been dealt with and reported to Zoom. Sorry, I completely missed that. Any other questions?
Yes.
Anna, yeah.
What do you think might be the main side effects of these techniques?
Well, the main side or size effect? I didn't quite get your question.
Both, not a side.
The side effects. Well, as always, those are implantable devices. So you need to access the brain and to, well, I think I didn't check, but I think most of the time you need to remove the skull and even penetrate inside of the brain for most of them. So although it reduces the risk of broad inflammatory response, well, I suppose that there is always a risk of inflammatory response and damage to the brain, and it's not something that you can keep forever, usually on the brain. But this is how it was with technologies. We had methods before that gave us a lot of good results and that were really interesting, but that could not necessarily be applied for a long term or for every animals. It was not working all the time, and this is always incremental. Here we are doing better and better. So of course there will be some side effects for the animals. It won't be perfect. It won't work every time. And I remember I worked in a lab at some points that were trying to develop and use micro arrays of microelectrodes. And thing is, they said that they had, I think, 64 something like that electrode per needle. But in fact, when they were testing them, because there was like one needle, and on top of the needle, a lot of different electrodes on the thing. But when they were testing them, so first when they were implanting them, a lot of them broke, and when they were testing them, not all the channels on the electrode were working. So it's always something that is improving and not working 100%, but that's what technology and science is, and it's great to see the extent of what we are able to do nowadays. And I'm pretty excited with what's happening now.
Thank you.
All right.
Are there any other questions? Oh, yeah, Michelle, number 2.
So most of those techniques are only applicable to animals.
Sure.
That's really a review of what is applicable to animals. But ultrasound, on the other hand, should be usable in humans.
I was a bit disappointed when I did not see any ultrasound machine here. And I mean, maybe it's because it's a technology that is considered a bit old when you don't know the state of the art of the new technology that we have in the field. So people are not super interested. You say ultrasound, and people think, yeah, the thing that you use to check if the baby is okay, and that's it. And this is something that we've had for so long. But yeah, I guess in a few years, because when we know what we are doing with the ultrasound with the brain, I'm not a specialist in it, but I've seen some very exciting news about that. But ultrasound imaging in the brain seems to be one of the next step that could even replace in some MRI in some fields, and would be much cheaper and much easier to use. So I expect that in the next few years, we'll see reviews or articles showing these kind of methods and really highlighting the effect that they would have. Not quite yet, but yeah, soon. I expect, or at least I hope.
Shouldn't you have prefaced your, hang on, Emma, yes, prefaced your comment with, it's not really a question, it's more like a comment. Right, are there any other questions or comments? No. Okay. Okay, quick, Victor, thank you. I actually have a question for you, and that is, how did you find that paper?
Well, I went online. I have several journals that I know that I can find paper in, like typically Nature Neuroscience, Nature Communication, Neuroimage, and a few others. And I just check the current issue, and I browse the titles, and I see if I see anything that is interesting to me. This is the basic way of when I have no articles or anything like that. How I do, I just browse the articles, and I find a lot of them interesting, and then I go to the abstract. I read the abstract, and I just select the one that I'm really interested in, and then of course I read the article. But this is only when I didn't heard of an article before, because sometimes in the news, in my news feed, I see things that interest me. So I need to. I am subscribed to a few science-related news feed. So when I get a notification about something linked to neuroscience and it interests me, I can just pick the article, and that's it. I have one, and it's a great way to have one. But otherwise, yeah, I have to go and browse the recent articles on the journals I know will have articles in my field, especially.
Anyone else from the people who presented previously, what's your strategies finding papers? I'm looking at Chris, Laura, Michelle. Michelle.
Have Stephanie Falco sending it to me on Twitter. That's how I find the papers. Quick disclaimer.
As one way of doing it, yes. Chris?
Yeah, I'm not really well, I'm not I'm not very good at that, but when I look for papers, I usually look at preprints, because I like the idea of preprints, even though most of them are not reviewed yet. I like to see like the research that will be published in the next month. So it's like the most up-to-date research, if it's a good paper, of course. So it's kind of a gamble, but also you can find very interesting ideas, and also you can also find, like the paper I presented, you can also find some papers with very like hardcore conclusions, like they've not been smoothed out by the reviewers. So it can also be interesting to see what the researchers actually think of their paper. But yeah, otherwise you have a bunch of apps, like you showed me one, Stephanie, the researcher, I think. Yeah, it's just researcher. And you can select different categories, and it will give you a feed of the new papers released, or you can also filter.
Yeah, actually, it's the same for me. Like, I'm using an application which is called Feedly. I can write it down in the chat box. And
yeah, if you want to drop all of those apps in the chat for people to use, that'd be great.
You just insert your interests, and then you can also follow some pages, which might be also the journal themselves. So you just have the most, the highlights of the week.
Nice. Yeah, personally, I also found it quite interesting to see when we had a Neuroccino, and the authors then on Twitter commented on the review that we did in our little group, and either to clarify or to thank us for the review, or also to take away how the paper landed with people, which can be quite helpful, I guess. So I think discussing preprints in that regard is quite helpful, because it's like an independent review of some sort as well. Anyone else? Any other strategies? Any other platforms people are using? No. So as I'm Michelle's paper whisperer, the platforms that I'm using is Twitter, for example, ResearchGate as well. But you can also sign up for Google Scholar Alert. So you put in interests, and you just get an email every time a paper is published in your field, which is also quite helpful. And then you just follow the people you think write amazing papers, and you see what they come up with. Michelle?
ResearchGate is also really good for that, because you know, when you go on ResearchGate, you have this first page where you have like the stream of every paper that came out, including preprints, and that's there is an algorithm behind it that's gonna fit paper to your profile and your general interest. So it's a good platform.
It's also an app, but for some reason for me, the app doesn't really work. It keeps crashing every other month. So I gave up on it, but so that's ResearchGate, obviously Twitterverse. What else did we say? Researcher app. Am I missing something? Don't think so. Another strategy Leah told me about is that she goes on PubMed every week and just sorts all of PubMed in terms of the papers from last week and looks for papers that interest her. So that's another strategy. Good old PubMed. Oh yeah, Scholar alert. There we go. That's quite a long list, I think. I'm going to add them to the YouTube feed as well, so we have them for longer. And if you can think of anything else afterwards, just let me know, and I'm happy to add it. Now, as this is the last Neuroccino for 2020, are there any comments, any feedback, anything you want to see us do next year? Any papers that you didn't want to present yourself, but you want to whisper to someone? Looking at Michelle. Yes.
I think we should also present books, not necessarily that were published last week because we need time to read them, but some books are really good and really helpful to have a comprehensive understanding of cognitive neuroscience, neuroanatomy, or specific functions.
Sounds like you have a specific book in mind. You did. Great. You start us off with that one. No, that's a lovely category. Also, in terms of the scope, because I keep getting that question, anything goes, really. Anything that that draws your attention. It doesn't necessarily have to be purely brain related. Also historical papers. If there are papers that were seminal works, we're more than happy to discuss them as well. So do bring your papers. Anything that gets you excited about science is worth discussing. And one thing that's important to bear in mind is that, at least from my perspective, I always assume that everything I read, everything else already has read and knows anyways, and I'm always running behind. Not the case. You often read papers and then you think, oh, gosh, this is the most important paper I ever read. And then you realize no one else really knows it that well. So if in doubt, bring it, discuss it. You might also find that someone in this room was the reviewer for some of those papers and has all-round insider knowledge. Just try it. Okay. Now, if there is no questions, no comments, again, I do apologize for the little interruptions we had in the chat.
Ma'am, when are we meeting back next year?
Good question. So let me just double check so I'm not giving you a wrong date. The 4th of January is the next one, the 4th of January. You can download the diary from our website for Android and Apple. And we keep adding the events to the diary. So you have an automatic calendar from us if you want. The 4th of January is the next Neuroccino and the first one for 2021.
Do you want to change the link? Because I think some rogue people have found out the link and they just log in with. Do you want to change the link of Neuroccino? because I think today some individuals
Yeah.
who using
that might be a good idea, actually. Yes.
yeah, because I think that same person changed the ID and logged again.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good idea. So that will all be on the website, and we will put a tweet out and Facebook, whatnot, to give you the details to log in again. Also, as I said, tomorrow we have a PhD Viva that you're welcome to watch on our channel. There will also be a habilitation examination later this year that we can add to the channel. And that's it, I think. Am I missing something? Team in the background? No. Okay, great. Thank you all for coming to the last Neuroccino, and we're excited to see you again in the new year. Have a lovely and exciting week in science and a lovely holiday. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.